Hey everyone, and welcome to Almost Cancelled. I'm Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about Lost in Space Season 1, Episode 1. It is called Impact. We will start spoiler free because it is in Episode 1, and we will warn you somewhere in the middle about spoilers before we do them, and then we can, you can opt out at that point if you want. But if you've seen the episode, you can stick around and get the spoiler discussion. So this is something we unusually for Netflix, this is one that we knew about way in advance. Because there's a lot of Netflix shows that kind of just pop up a couple of months before they hit. They'll be like,
Yeah.
here, release date, trailer. It's like, oh, this thing exists, I didn't know about that. This one we heard about in the middle of, 2016, I want to say.
No, that sounds about right. It's been quite a while.
Because I remember them announcing it and then saying, oh, it's not even coming next year, it's coming,
Yeah.
2018. So, waiting this for a while. Obviously, it's a new revamped version of the original show from the 60s and 70s, I want to say. I've never seen the
Sounds
original
about right.
show.
I didn't either.
I have seen the movie that was made about 1999 with Matt LeBlanc and William Hurt in it.
I never saw that either.
And one of the girls from Mean Girls was in it. She was the teenage daughter.
So yeah, this is completely fresh to me.
Yeah. So I had a vague idea of what the premise was, and obviously I know there's a robot. Of course, he's even on the poster. That's like a big part of the whole thing. But beyond that, I mean, I didn't really know what this version was going to do with it. Clearly, it was going to be a bit more serious than that movie, or even probably the original show. I assume the original show is a bit more campy. Just
Given
from
the
seeing,
time, yeah,
just from seeing like the DVD cover and stuff, it just looks a bit campier. Than
yeah,
what this is. So Netflix, as per usual, has pumped a lot of money into this because
yeah. Obviously,
it looks bloody good. It looks like, oh man, I want more space shows from Netflix.
yeah. It's funny. Obviously, I've got the IMDb page up here just so I can see the character names
Yeah.
because don't know them yet. And there's a one person's done a user review already
Oh,
and said the budget looks really low. It looks awful. I'm like, have you even watched this?
have you watched TV shows in general? I don't understand.
Yeah.
I'll admit it does have this quality when they're down on the planet because the episode starts
Yeah.
with them crashing on a planet. I will admit it has this weird feeling to it where it feels. How do I put this? It feels. It doesn't feel like the old Star Trek stuff where it's like they're on a set. It doesn't feel like that.
No, but it doesn't feel quite real either.
No, it's got this like too calm feeling to it for it to be actual really out in this wild snowy
Yeah.
landscape. But I think that might be part of the charm.
Sure. But it definitely doesn't look like a low budget. Was
It
my
doesn't
point.
look, but it still looks very expensive. There's a stylistic choice to make it feel the way it does, but it definitely does not look cheap. It looks like they spent a lot of money on this.
It does. And the production design is pretty great.
Yeah. Obviously, we see some stuff with the ships flying. There is flashbacks. Funnily enough, I saw the title of a review earlier this month calling it Lost in Space. And I joked about how I thought that meant it was bad because I thought they meant lost as in they didn't know what they were doing and it was it was aimless. But what they actually meant was it's like the TV show Lost but in space. And I wasn't sure. Obviously, okay, so there's mystery. Maybe there's mystery on this planet to land on. But of course, we actually have flashbacks, so that's very Lost-like to have the flashbacks. I assume we'll probably get more of those. Obviously, this first episode focuses on a certain story it's telling with the flashbacks. That's the first thing that really struck me is I really feel like this first episode, unlike a lot of Netflix shows, it does feel like it has a clear this is this episode with an
It
ending.
does. I think the flashbacks are a little bit murkier because there's like two or three things going on in the flashbacks.
They
Which is,
all kind of line up to an
I mean,
extent.
they're all relevant to what's happening in the present, don't
Yeah.
get me wrong. But there's quite a lot going on in them for the amount of screen time they have.
Okay, okay.
But I agree that the present day stuff is very focused in terms of, oh no, this is one particular episode.
And I'm pretty sure that's the one thing I saw from the early reviews actually is that it does feel like it's actually chapters and not just, like it's just been chopped up. But there's actually thought went into this is this episode and this is the
That's good because the problem with some Netflix shows is that they feel like they don't need to be individual episodes because they assume people are going to binge it. They just kind of run on into one 10-hour thing.
yeah. And let me be clear, this is not me saying that, and having seen the episode, this is not us saying that this is not a serialized show. It is a serialized show. But serialized shows still have chapters. They can still have episodes that feel like they have beginning, middles, and ends, and then they each form a whole. But whereas a lot of Netflix shows do sometimes suffer from, no, this is just a 10-hour thing that's been chopped up. Sometimes for better, sometimes for worse. Obviously, this is not a Netflix show, but obviously the new Twin Peaks season was very much like that. That was just, no, this is just chopped up in 18 parts because it's an 18 hours long thing.
I think if all of it is good enough, you can get away with that.
Yeah, it doesn't
But
matter too
but
much, but
when some of it's a bit weaker, I think it stands out more if you just chop it up like that because it's not as consistent. It kind of just feels like some of it's wasting its time.
I do appreciate watching an episode and feeling like I got a full chunk, like a full meal, if you will. That
Yeah.
feels like it left me off in like a tease, a cliffhanger, or whatever. And it's still building the overall story, but there was still a focus. And obviously, a lot of good shows will excel at that. So, but anyway, so yeah, first episode, crash land on a planet. The kid finds a robot, and we go from there. That's basically it. And the reason why they're on a planet, or why they're on space, is because Earth is going to shit, and they've sent out this colony ship full of other little ships that are looking for other planets they can maybe inhabit, right? Because Earth's dying, Earth's like, days are numbered. And this family, the Robinson family, obviously named after Robinson Crusoe, getting lost.
Yeah.
Classic Letterby character. So it's funny, I almost said Robinson Crusoe on Mars because I like that movie, which obviously is also named because it's a new take on Robinson Crusoe, except the guy lands on Mars. Which I don't think you can blame me. This is a natural evolution of that. Because
No,
now
it is. It is just the next step.
yeah, we're going further out, and so they're out searching. Something goes wrong. They crash on this planet, and it's like, okay, we need to survive. So a lot of this first episode is okay. The damage control. What's happened? How do we survive? What's going on? And yeah, so we'll get into more plot and spoilers, but that's the setup. So, how did you feel about the first episode?
I quite liked it actually. That was pretty damn good.
I quite enjoyed it. I have one small criticism.
Is it something you can say here?
No, it is something I could see here. Now, admittedly, it became less of a criticism as it went on because they kind of justified it with the plot as it went on. But at first, I was kind of worried that none of the characters were very likable. Particularly the father, John, is a bit of a disgruntled hard ass who doesn't seem to. And I'm not saying like, oh, it's a family show. They have to all be likable and jokey with each other. It was more just that, like, you give me some sort of hook to care about one of them. Now, I think that by the end of the episode, I actually really like all three of the kids. I think the Will just has some sort of. It's a nice little arc in the episode, and he shows that he's kind of like noble, and then the girls, them bickering, and then like what it evolved into with the sort of more heartfelt bickering, if you will.
Yeah.
Kind of. Cause I think honestly, there's a scene with the two girls where one of them's having to like instruct the other one to do something. We'll spoil what that is in the spoilers, but that was easily the funniest scene of the episode.
I like those two more than Will. I think Will just nothing wrong with him, but he's younger, so inherently has to do more to win me over.
Oh, absolutely. I agree. The girls are more likable so far, but I think he has that the innocent heart of the show kind of thing going for him.
Yeah.
So far,
Yeah.
so. But it is justified in the plot because you find out the dad like hasn't been on great terms with the family before they came here, so it kind of actually justifies it as it goes on. But I did think it was weird for the first like half of the episode when they first crash and then they're first dealing with things. There was this weird chemistry
Tension,
that wasn't. I was like, this is weird. Why is there this weird thing here? Like, and I should have trusted them that they were going to fill it in, and they did. It just struck me as well because I think in this type of show, I don't expect that from the father straight away like this.
No, I get that, and you say you should have trusted them, but I feel like they have to earn that trust. And it's episode 1, so they haven't yet. So you assume the worst. I think of everything.
It'd be different if I knew the creators. Maybe if I knew I liked whoever's running the show. Maybe okay, I'll assume they're going to because I know they do this. I know they withhold things and then hit me with it later. But so I was a little bit worried about liking the characters, but I'm happy to say that by the end I definitely liked all the kids, and the parents make a lot more sense by the time we get to the end.
Yeah, I don't necessarily like them, but I understand them a bit more.
Yeah. There's definitely a story there to tell and develop, and you obviously assume that over the course of the season they'll be,
all come back together a bit closer, and
you can sort of see some of those beats playing out. If there are mystery elements, I am curious about the mystery stuff. The robot, when it does pop up, looks pretty cool. He's got a cool design.
I agree. I really like it.
And again, he does not look cheap at all. He looks very expensive.
He does.
They put money into this, and and that's the thing. Like every single shot in this, with the exception of some of the flashbacks, which are in a house, every single shot is an effect shot because they're either in an icy sort of glacier with icy water, they're on a ship, or it's like an exterior of a ship flying through space. Like everything, and nothing. I don't think anything.
There's
bad.
not much they can hide, is there?
No, which is why it feels kind of cool that we can have a TV show like this now. So that does do all this stuff, and because even like Expanse, and then arguably to a greater extent Star Trek Discovery. Okay, the effects in those shows are great for all the space
But
stuff.
they've got a lot of interior
A lot
sets.
of interior sets, which, okay, they have to build the sets once, but then they're on those sets consistently. Whereas here it feels like, okay, we might get some sets later on if they find something on this planet, but
Right now, we're just in the outdoors.
yeah, so it's just all kind of different
Yeah.
stuff. So that's that. I like the music quite a bit.
Yeah, it's okay. I don't love it yet.
So it's a bit in the I don't want to say cheesy, but it's definitely playing it,
It's
heart on
definitely
the
lighter. It's very 90s.
yeah, it's very heart on your sleeve kind of
Yeah.
score. There's a little bit of the original main theme that was kind of spread out in there. The main theme, if you don't know what that is, it's the one that plays at the end credits as well.
Right.
But that was like sprinkled in throughout, and I'm surprised I recognised it. But they used it in the movie as well, so I instantly knew it as soon as it played. I was like, "Oh,
Fair enough.
that's a theme from the movie."
I wasn't familiar with it, so,
So I'm assuming that comes from the original show. I'm assuming that's not the movie that made that.
probably.
I don't imagine this show feels that
Hold
concerned
to
with
the movie.
yeah, with referencing the movie as much. But no, so I think that works. I think there was one of the flashbacks I thought was a bit overly cheesy.
Yeah.
There was one where like it's Judy, one of the sisters, is like sort of encouraging young Will because he feels worried about his tests because they all have to go through testing to be accepted for this colonization program, and he's kind of worried, and she just gives this cheesy like big sister speech, and I'm like, sisters and brothers hate each other way more than this, which is why I like the two sisters a lot because they felt a bit more like
Bit more realistic.
yeah, they're digging into each other and making fun of each other, and even when they do actually want to show that they care, they're cracking jokes about how they hate each other. Like that's
That's true. I think the flashbacks are probably the weakest part as well because even though I understand what they're doing, they're just a little bit not quite landing. Like the one in the shop feels a bit overly dramatized to me.
yeah, no, that's fair. I think I'll give them credit for the flashbacks that they all feel like they're accomplishing something plot wise. Like none of them felt like, oh, we didn't need that. Like they all feel like they're planting things.
That's the thing. They're all important in terms of what they're
Yeah.
adding to the characters. It's just actually watching them, they're kind of not quite landing.
Yeah, I wonder, like if they'll fade out as we go through the season, or if maybe they'll change. Like maybe the flashbacks will become because we do get a glimpse at one point that because I think I don't know about the show, but definitely the movie it was just one ship that went out, whereas this is like a big colonized
colony, yeah.
thing of like, all these little ships like connected to it. And we see that before they left this thing, it was like a full ship with like a city full of people essentially living on this big ship. And I wonder if maybe some of the flashbacks later on will be on the ship instead
I
of
think
on Earth.
probably, yeah.
I feel like maybe we'll get a few flashbacks building up to them leaving Earth, and then there'll be flashbacks of them on this ship, and maybe that'll be the whole season. We'll get like the flashbacks sprinkled throughout until we catch
I
up.
just hope that they remain as thematically consistent.
Oh, yeah, no reason to doubt them in that so
Yeah.
far.
Well, I know. There's a concern with flashbacks in general that they feel like okay, we've got to have this amount every episode, and they can kind of just be there for the sake of it.
I'm hoping since along with the varying runtimes, as with some Netflix shows, it varies from like 48 minutes to 66 minutes and anything in between. I'm hoping that because they're saying no, this episode doesn't have to be longer. I'd hope they have the same attitude with well, we don't need.
I would hope so.
If this episode has no flashbacks or one flashback, that's fine. It's
That would be nice.
or if they do, then hopefully it's because they actually have something to say with them. And
Yeah.
we've all seen Arrow go down the toilet because it insists on having flashbacks for 5 years.
It's not the only thing, though, is it?
I mean, even Lost suffered from it a little bit because that was kind of its format. But that did some pretty fun stuff later on to rejig the format a little bit.
That's fair.
But hey, I'm a fan of Lost in case anyone is not grasping that right now. Potential references may be made later on should moments arise. There was no robots in Lost though.
Lost probably would have been better with robots.
I mean, polar
To be
bears
fair, most
with
things are probably
robots.
better with robots, right?
I like how the polar bear would have fit more in this show because they're in snow, but we got a robot instead.
Yeah.
So no, the first episode is pretty good. I actually like all the actual adventure stuff. I like the robot a lot. And I'm curious to see. Obviously, the final scene adds a lot to the mystery and adds a lot to there's all this stuff going on that we're going to explore further down the line. So no, I'm excited to watch more of it actually.
Yeah, me too. It's pretty good.
It's scratching my.
God damn it, Netflix.
It's scratching another one of my space itches. I need more space TV shows. It's weird that I have this at the same time The Expanse comes back, but There you go. Whatever. Have it all at once. It's fine. So we'll give spoiler warning then. So full spoilers for the first episode of Lost in Space. I mentioned earlier on that there was a really funny scene with the two sisters. So I want to give it credit actually because they do the whole thing where okay, the ship sank into the icy water. And oh crap, it's going to get, based on my initial readings here, because they all seem to have been trained in specific things, so they're actually kind of like a crew. And one sister's the medic, clearly, the mother's clearly the geologist, the scientist. Although Will seems to be into that stuff as well. He seemed to know some of that stuff.
Yeah, he makes a point of that they stuck him in geology classes because he was good at it.
It might not be so much that they actually formed each family to have one of each. It's just a case of this family has two of those because that's just where they fit. Yeah. But the dad, of course, was a soldier beforehand, so he's the combat and the survival, yeah, that kind of stuff.
I wonder if it's not so much each family gets in, because maybe they weren't expecting to split them off into each families quite this much, because obviously it was a big colony ship.
Ah, sure, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
We have this many per colony.
That's what I meant, actually, yeah, because once they get there, it's like they'll just all, they'll set up their homes, and then they'll go and, all the geologists will go into their geology tent
exactly.
and so on. And then the other sister, Penny, she seems to be literature and maybe just the arts in general, because her whole thing seems to be that she's cataloguing all the notable books and things like that to sort of take with us, so that seems to be her focus. So that's all cool, but the whole thing, it sets up early on, the big thing of this episode is that Will's, this sounds harsh, but he's a bit of a pussy, basically, right? He's nervous.
He is, yeah.
He's got cold feet, literally, in fact. Everyone has cold feet in the episode, quite literally. Cold everything. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I was going to say, and he freezes, but, that's just as bad.
It's just as bad, because literally he's not the one that freezes, there's someone else who freezes.
Yeah.
Because... So they're going to freeze to death, right? It's going to get colder, nightfall, whatever, and they need to... The suits can keep them warm, but they need to charge them. Like, they don't have batteries for them. So okay, we can still swim down at the ship, but the only hatch that's open from the top, so that it's quick enough, is the one that only Will can fit through, because it got jammed earlier on. It was fine earlier on, everyone else just went out another exit, but now that it's sunk into the water's going to freeze soon, because this is deadly cold planet.
Yeah.
So the dad's like, he's been a soldier. He's like, well, logically, strategically, this is what makes sense. And the mother's like, no.
Yeah,
damn it, John.
I will say it's a little heavy on its foreshadowing at this point. Because, the dad's like, he went through the same training as the rest of us.
Yeah. And obviously we find out later. And I do like the revelation that he never actually passed his training. His mother kind of did some shady behind
I had
closed
to go
doors.
back to check what he failed on, because it kind of went too quickly to see the list. Because he only failed on one thing.
Oh, was it one thing?
The stress and emergency response.
That makes complete sense, given what we see.
He passes everything else, but that one thing is where he failed.
But that's good, because that means he's got an arc. That's the obvious arc. He can overcome that. He can't quite overcome some of the other things that he could have failed. Depending on what they are. So your dad's like sitting him up. He's like, you have to go in. You just need to swim into the top bit, grab the battery thing, and come back up. You'll be fine. And this is actually the first moment where it makes us like one of the characters. I think Judy, who seemed kind of likeable up to this point, jumps in for him. It's like, don't worry, bro, I've got it. And she jumps in against the parents' will, and she kind of like swims down. But she goes the long way. Of course, she can't get in, and she gets the battery, and the water starts to freeze, and it's this whole thing where they're talking to her over the comms, and it's like, no, Judy, get back up here. And I have to give them credit, because I thought this was just going to play out like, and I wasn't going to complain about this, but I thought it was just going to be the cliche thing when she gets out just in time. And they've got the battery packs, and then the episode would be about something else. And instead, it actually surprised me. She gets almost out and completely freezes, and she's like alive in her suit, just stuck in ice for the rest of the episode. And that's what the episode's about. It's about trying to how do we get her out of the ice? And I'm like, you know what? I did not expect that to be what the premise of this first episode was going to be.
No, it was a nice twist on it, wasn't it?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I don't expect they're going to kill any of the kids, at least this early anyway. Maybe we'll get a dark twist around episode 7. But...
I half expected it just to be like, this ain't the show that you remember.
Yeah, no, I see. I still think it's... I mean, obviously, it's definitely... it's not as cheesy or silly as it was, but I think it's still meant to still work for a family audience.
I agree, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's still very much something that they're thinking about. But one you can take a bit more seriously, of course, than maybe the old stuff. But no, so the episode goes about that, and so it makes you like her. I think that's the big thing. Okay, so Judy, like, okay, you did something with that character. I now kind of like her because she's clearly willing to do this for her little brother.
bit reckless because she stays a bit longer than she should down there.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, yeah. See, again, it tells us more about her character. She's willing to take risks. Although maybe not after this episode, because she does almost die. She's stuck in that ice a mighty long time. The dad, John, the dad's like just chipping away at this little knife, like, as if he can get into. It's like frozen solid. She's like surrounded by completely solid ice, and it's like, okay, your suit's got 6 hours of oxygen, give or take.
Yeah, it'll keep you warm. You're fine. Just stay there and don't talk and don't breathe as much as you can.
And actually, I liked a lot of this stuff because a lot of this stuff was, her sister Penny. It's a character in Lost named Penny, actually. No, I'm thinking of that. But like she's like reading her Moby Dick. She's like, "Hey, read to me. You've got books on your phone," which which they use more as a comms device rather than as a phone. But
yeah, still just call it that.
Yeah, because I mean, it's like a smartphone. It's got all these other things on it, so it's useful, even though you can't just make a phone call. But yeah, the funny scene I was talking about though is that the mother's leg gets injured during the crash, and it's getting worse, and it's like, oh, is this all hard? We need to relieve the pressure, and she's like, all right, so take. And obviously Judy's the medical one. She's stuck in the ice, so she's talking over the comms, and she's saying, hey, take out this this shot that'll knock her out. Okay, fine. You're going to have to do a little procedure. It's like, procedure? What?
So how hard is this? It's like, it's not too bad in theory.
I think it was so I've heard. I think that was the exact phrase. And she's like, "What do you mean heard? You've never done this." And I love it. Becomes like she's cutting into her mother's leg. So you're gonna have to cut really deep. And she's like, "It's just a steak. I like steaks. It's just a juicy steak." And she's like, "Just cut till you see the steak." Like,
I'll be honest. As soon as she's like, "No, I like steak," immediately, right, I can relate to this character.
Honestly, I think at this point she was the friendly banter with her sister was enough to make me kind of get into her. But she it was this long time. She's talking to herself. She's like building herself up. She's doing this big long cut down her mother's leg. It gets to the end. She's like, "Oh, really good, Penny. Now you just have to do that 3 more times." And she just gives this look over. She just looks over at the ice, and I just burst out laughing. It was like a really good.
And then
moment.
The cutaway there, because it cuts to another scene at that point, is timed perfectly.
Yeah. So to make us like the characters, I think at least the kids for sure, I'm on board with at this point. Will has this idea. Hey, that over there that's burning, that's not rocket fuel. That's white. That's magnesium. That'll actually burn through ice. That'll melt the ice.
Burns hotter with ice.
Yeah, and he's like, huh, that's a good idea. So he's like, oh, come with me. I don't know what I'm looking for. It's usually your idea. So they go traipsing, they're walking on the glaciers, they get into the cave, and he's like, hey, am I going to blow us up? And he's like, no, as long as you don't cause a spark. Like, alright, easy enough.
So I've got a metal knife against this rock here, so let's go very, very slowly.
Yeah, very carefully, just making sure he doesn't blow himself up. And of course, we get kind of a... I'll call it a cliche moment, just in that Will just falls down a hole. Well, I mean, the ice breaks away, but...
Yeah, it collapses. It's not entirely his fault.
But the reason why I say it that way is because it is a very typical, they're out in the wilderness danger thing that always happens.
It is, and even the way he slides down this perfectly curved little thing.
Yeah, it reminded me a lot of the... towards the end of the Goonies, where the kids are all sliding down the holes into where the big ship is. Have you seen the Goonies, Connor?
I've seen most of it.
Okay, just making sure. There's some weird things you've just not seen.
There is. I've never sat down and watched the whole thing, but over time I've caught most of it on TV. I know.
You cross it off the list one day, Connor. That's just...
I should.
Same. But so we get sort of how interesting this planet is, though, because Will ends up in like a forest. It's like instantly the snow stops and the forest begins. It's like, oh, this is interesting, because where they've been so far, everything's just been like an ice planet. It's like been Krypton basically until we get to this point.
And it is a really harsh cut off. It's like, here's the cliff of ice that he can't climb back up, and now here's forest.
Yeah, it's not like the snow peters out and then it's gradually like it would.
Yeah, there's no snow in the forest. It's just green.
Yeah, which maybe says there's maybe some unique qualities in this planet where it's like all these harsh cut-offs. Admittedly, by the end of the episode, the forest is burned, so maybe that won't be as habitable as it once was. But of course, again, going back to Will's character arc, is that he's kind of he has to sort of agree that he's to be left alone here, because the dad's like, hey, if I don't go back right now, your sister's probably going to die. You have to stay here and wait before I can come back and get you. And he's like, okay, go save her. But he's scared, but he gets like, signals, and he goes listening, and we find this ship. This, he's like, not one of the, because all the ships called the Jupiters. They're Jupiter 2, their ship is. And he's like, oh, it's not one of those. Is this an alien craft? And it's funny because I think you do actually see that in the opening. It looks like it hits into the ship. It's actually one of the reasons why it crashes is because they're going down, and then the ship hits it. But you see the ship's all crashed, and it's like, okay, and then you see... you don't really make it what it is. It looks like legs, and it turns out to be legs, but it's just the legs of the robot, like, walking around.
Yeah.
And it kind of chases them, and he climbs up a tree, and he's on this big branch.
Good thinking, to be fair.
Yeah, and then of course the top half of the robot is like behind him up here. It's got like 4 arms, and it's kind of creepy.
Just appears behind him.
Yeah, and it's got that big sort of bulb of light as its head.
Yeah.
It's a really really cool design, but it kind of becomes this thing, and I think like part of the story here, especially when we get to the big reveal at the end, that the reason why they evacuated the ship is because this robot was on the ship, killing people left and right. It was just brutally murdering everyone. So
yeah, different.
I'm getting Iron Giant vibes to an extent here.
Yeah, that's forgotten.
Yeah, in the sense that I think this kid, and the fact that the kid shows it kindness, is kind of what leads to it being like a good robot, and that's why it's kind of, it's because the kid, I mean, Will thinks he's going to die.
It feels pretty murderous.
Yeah, the forest is burning, and Will's like, he's up there, he's going to die, and he sees that the legs are trying to connect to the torso, and the torso, they can't quite reach, so he's like, you know what, there's no need for both of us to die. So he goes forward and he cuts the branch so that he'll fall. But the robot returns the favour. The robot jumps up and grabs him.
Yeah, I'm intrigued to see on the robot the way the facial mechanics works in terms of its light changes color. Like it's very red at first, but then at the end when we get back, it's much more of just a natural, like a bluey light color.
Yeah, I think there'll be some obvious just red means angry, whitey blue means calm.
Yeah, probably. But I'm intrigued to see how that progresses, and if it has any subtle changes as we go.
Is there other colours that will come in that maybe mean different things?
Yeah.
Potentially, I don't know. But and we see that it kind of like notices Will, and it kind of respects Will enough to like sort of reform itself into having just 2 arms, so it's more humanoid looking.
Yeah.
Still got its robot head and stuff, but it's more humanoid shaped otherwise. Much taller, of course. And it makes me wonder, actually, if, when he had the 4 arms and he was crawling about on the ship at the end, we see the flashback to, 12 hours previously on the big ship. I wonder, was that emulating another life form? Was it copying something else that it had already encountered, and that's why it was acting like that?
Could be, or if assuming this was built by someone, is that that was its base design?
It could be, yeah.
I have no idea.
Because we see it mimic the life form of Will, I wonder if is this some alien thing with 4 arms that it was
maybe, yeah. It
was mimicking from before. I'm assuming it came from somewhere else and didn't come from on the ship, but I mean it could have been. Maybe there's, because we get this this woman at the end, played by Parker Posey, who's kind of mysterious and kind of like steals this other guy's lab coat and steals his ship to evacuate, and she leaves with those 2 other engineers that aren't meant to be on one of the ships, but she's like, hey, engineers in the area.
That's it. The doctor was he couldn't move, like broken his legs or something, so she takes the jacket and it's like, right, well, that's me now, essentially. You got to feel bad for his family, because the engineers tell us, right, only families get in the Jupiters.
Oh yeah, she not only leaves him to die, she leaves his entire family to die.
Yeah, obviously we don't see them, but
yeah, and we see at the end as well. Seemingly, the entire ship, with a lot of the ships that are trying to get away, are sucked into a black hole, possibly destroyed as well.
Yeah,
I mean, we'll see where that goes. I
you
guess.
assume at least a few are on the planet.
Yeah, possibly. I think that'll be a big thing at some point, as we find maybe another ship crashed. At the very least, the ones we just get introduced to.
Yeah, I'm expecting this one relatively soon, but then I can see another 1 or 2 towards the end as well.
So I think that's very fascinating, and obviously I feel like the heart of this story is going to be that Will's going to trust the robot, and the robot is going to become like a better, quote unquote person because of his relationship with Will.
But it'll be when these people who have seen this robot up on the ship get down and see it. How do they react then? Yeah.
Because obviously, it saves Will, and then it comes, storming in to everyone else, because they're basically like, they've been trying to get her out, the magnesium plan's not worked, it starts raining, the water starts freezing up again.
Yeah. And it was a good plan, right up until it rained.
Yeah, damn rain. And it's all going to shit. They're all, and it's a really sweet moment, actually, because as much as I'm not super invested in these characters yet. There was something sweet about all three of them, like the parents and Penny all holding her hand, because her hand's kind of like freed. They've got her
Yeah.
hand kind of cut out, and they're all holding her hand as she's probably going to die. And it's like, oh, this is actually kind of like this is a bit more heartfelt than maybe I'd expected to feel in the first episode.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
And then, sure enough, the robot comes in, and Will comes in after. He's like, "Oh, it's with me," and of course, like, everyone's like, "What?
Yeah.
how are you with the robot?" And it's like, "Help her," and it heats melts the ice, pulls her out,
Yeah. He has warm hands.
and he's like, "Hey, can you stop us from freezing to death?" And he just turns on his warm hands again, and just like, yeah, just
It's not even just his hands. Like it comes on around his face as well. Like he just becomes a heater.
yeah, he just generates heat for them. So naturally, I expect next episode the rest of the family are going to be very
Cautious.
I mean,
yeah.
despite the fact that he saved the daughter, which obviously gets him a little bit of credit, I feel like they're all going to be like, "Hey, this we don't know what this thing could do.
Unknown alien life form here.
Could change at any point," kind of thing.
Yeah.
Do you know what? I was ready to really rage early on actually, because they did the stupid thing where the mum takes the helmet off even before they've tested the atmosphere. And the dad rightly points it out, and she's like, "Hey, but your suit's been cut. Like you'd have been dead already." I'm like, "Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
No, I'll let it slide. They didn't show us that, which is
Yeah.
why it felt cheap when she was just taking it off. I was like, "What are you doing?"
Scientists, come on."
Yeah,
Oh, that's
but
Prometheus shit.
she does point it out, so I'm like, all right, I'll let it slide because she's right.
I still feel like an actual scientist would still take readings because it could be slow acting. Like who knows?
That's true, but that's the thing. I don't know if they're really scientists first and foremost. I don't know if she was properly a scientist or if she just trained on this to get into the course. Like, I'm not sure if she was this beforehand.
I was trying to figure out where she was working actually from her
It
flashback.
doesn't really show us, does it?
It seemed to be something with engineering in the background. There was like things being built. I'm sure.
Right, but I'm not sure. At that point, is she already kind of trying to get into this program? So she's in the training
All
and
right,
stuff.
maybe I took that as a workplace.
Maybe, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you could argue because that obviously we're not spoken about the flashbacks yet. All in the fact that Will, of course, failed is that the dad, like, we have that sweet scene early on where he surprises him by coming home at Christmas when he's been away on tour, and then we see that for the rest of the flashbacks he keeps not showing up. But ever since this thing happened, where this star, this comet, this shooting star came out of the sky and started to cause all the Earth's problems, he's been like away just constantly, with the military, and covert stuff where he's not allowed to talk to them for months at a time, that kind of thing. And because I mean, I like some of this. Like, I liked some of the the daughter trying to buy the present for him was kind of okay.
I like it in concept, but I think it's when you get to like the mum going, right, how easy is this to return? It becomes just overly dramatic.
Yeah, I mean, they could have cut. I mean, either just give a look or just cut after that line. It kept going for a little bit, and maybe we didn't need quite as much. But I think the idea was fine in theory. My favorite part of it though is actually, I thought there was an interesting tone to when she gets him on the phone towards the end, in the sort of final flashback where he's still away and it's like, oh, hey, I had to this took a long time to get a hold of you. I've sent you documents, and he's like, oh, you finally get around to that divorce, and it's almost a joke, like a half joke, but obviously they're acknowledging that they've had a lot of problems because he's just been away for so long, and she's like, no, we all passed to go in this colony mission. I just need your permission to take the kids. You have to sign off on it. And obviously he ends up deciding to go, and I'm sure we'll get some of that decision making in the future. But
at this point he's just kind of angry that she's taking the kids away from him. So obviously he wasn't planning on going.
But what I kind of liked about this though is that when he's like, oh, is this finally the divorce papers? She's like, oh, I don't even care about getting a divorce.
Not worth the effort.
Yeah, I don't care. It's like, we may have our issues, but there's more important things going on. Like, I kind of like that attitude. It wasn't going to be like, oh, this, sure, they still have this bridge to mend, and I'm sure a lot of the season will be kind of the fighting that erupts from this tension, and then the mending maybe later on. But I kind of like that it's from a different angle of, it's not just,
I'll be intrigued to see how much the kids know about this fractured relationship. Because obviously, kids can be perceptive, especially the older ones.
At one point, one of them makes a dig at him because he sort of barks an order at them, and he's like, "Hey, you're not our commander. you're not out with the army."
Yeah. But he's like, I give orders. I take orders for a living. Now I'm giving them.
Yeah. So because it sounds like by the time that he did come back to go on this trip, the kids, maybe not the son as much, but the daughters both were kind of, you
Kind
know,
of aware of the
yeah,
situation.
and maybe
Yeah.
spiteful themselves about how much he just sort of stayed away, and it
Yeah.
was all about the duty
I
instead of
think
being
we'll
with them.
see more of that in the
Yeah.
flashbacks to see what extent they were kind of annoyed at him.
Yeah. Annoyed feels like a really weird word to use in this
Yeah,
situation.
yeah,
And
more angry
is
probably.
annoyed when he eats the last donut and you really wanted it. That's annoyed.
Yeah, yeah. Always eat the last donut.
Oh yeah, no shame for me. I'll go for it.
You can be annoyed. It's mine.
Um, but no. No, I quite enjoyed it. I think my favorite. I like the robot a lot, and I really like the sense of adventure as they were going out and exploring and finding the robot, finding all this stuff. And I feel like it may be a little cheesy at times. I can sense that there may be more cheese to come here or
Yeah,
there.
I do hope there are more times where they don't know the solution, because here it kind of there's never long where they're okay. What do we do next? Like, there's always right. Okay, well we'll do this, and okay, then we'll think of the magnesium. There's always
Hmm.
an answer like pretty quickly. I hope there's times where they're just completely stumped and they have no idea what to do.
Yeah, I mean, arguably, it's kind of like that towards the end. It's the robot is the Deus Ex Machina for them.
It is,
It
yeah.
jumps out. I'm sure that'll be a thing. Though. I'm sure that'll be a big thing where like they just don't know what to do at
Yeah, I
some
just don't
point.
want them to feel overly smart. Like I
Oh,
get that they
sure.
are smart, but I don't want them to be, like completely know everything.
Yeah, I don't think the first episode is the one to explore that.
No, I agree.
I think we have to show them for at least a few episodes being generally quite capable at things before you hit them with the
Yeah.
thing, because then
Oh,
it
of
means
course.
more. It's like, oh wait, even they can't figure this out because they've been so good at doing it up until now.
Yeah.
So no, a lot of potential. So yeah, we'll be back with more reviews of this as we go. There'll definitely be one more over the weekend, and then we'll be back to hopefully doing them more or less daily come Monday. So look forward to those. But that is us. So let us know what you thought of the first episode of Lost in Space in the comments. Like and subscribe, all that stuff. Get us on the Twitters at mailed_fuzz for channel updates. If you want to support the channel, head over to patreon.com/mailefuzztv. You can do that over there. There's a link in the description. But otherwise, that is us. So thank you once again. And of course, I'm looking forward to the robot learning more English. But as for now, he said his catchphrase, which is "Danger, Will Robinson." So so thank you once again for watching or listening. Always appreciate it. Keep watching TV. Have you got any vanilla?